Welcome back, everybody, to our playthrough of, for these last few videos, it's really a quote-unquote playthrough of Majora's Mask. I'm recording this on December 19th. The reason I bring that up is a couple things. Firstly, I want to emphasize the fact that if this gets uploaded, well, probably my other video will get uploaded closer to Christmas, but this will probably be uploaded closer to New Year. I have no idea personally how the whole uploading schedule works. But I just wanted to say, it's the holiday season in general. You know, people have been celebrating Hanukkah, Christmas is going to be coming up soon, and because of my pathetic lack of cultural knowledge, I don't actually know when Kwanzaa is celebrated, and to be perfectly honest, I've never met anybody who celebrated it. The reason I say it is because if it's around this time of year, you should be happy. That's what I've been lately. I've been, away from my home. I'm going back to visit in a few days, which I'm excited for. I mentioned that also because there will probably be a little while where I don't send in any uploads because, I'll be away. I'll be doing things with my family who I haven't seen in a long time. And people shouldn't be watching our videos in or around that time either. Even if you don't celebrate any of the specific holidays, if you just see somebody, I don't know, I've always thought if I see somebody who celebrates those and they're happy, that kind of gives me a happy feeling, because there's a lot of mean stuff in this world. And if there's 1 month out of a year where for a few weeks of it we can just stop and say, you know what, we can be kind of happy for a while, then that's a good thing. And I know it's going to be harder for a lot of families this year because of, the thing that happened recently in Newtown, Connecticut. And I don't want the holidays to ever have to become a vice for somebody, a way that they remember how much pain they were caused that one holiday season because of what happened. But tragically, it's probably going to pass that happens. And so, we should all, figuratively speaking, take off our hats in respect for, the families who lost far too soon. I'm not saying that everybody should be going up to people in Newtown, if you're in or around that area, saying, oh my god, I'm so sorry for your loss, because I was struck by seeing a comic posted on my Facebook feed it was kind of a political cartoon, basically showing a couple who it's implied that they lost someone, and the media is just bombarding them. And that's the real tragedy of this entire happening, is that the people who lost cannot be given one moment of peace, and therefore cannot really have much hope of being able to cope with the horrible things that happened on a personal level. And I also read Roger Ebert's, who's a major film critic. I read on his blog, he had a post about it, similar to the Columbine shootings when he was interviewed for those too. Both of these had really violent kinds of media blamed on them, be it video games or movies. And Roger Ebert nailed it by saying it's not any kind of media that affects, basically, the media that these killers see does not affect what happens, but rather the emphasis on them seeing themselves as being recognized and being immortalized by the things they do. Even if they die, they'll be remembered for it, as is the case for this Newtown thing where the kid killed himself after he did all these things. So if I could say anything for this Christmas season, because that's what I celebrate, and I am in no way saying that you shouldn't celebrate Hanukkah. I know plenty of people who do, yada yada yada. I'm just saying. If I could say anything, just focus on your family. The families who were affected will probably be much more appreciative of having some time alone, some silence, away from their horrible loss, than being bombarded. And that's all I will say on the matter. Because now, back to the gameplay. We get the Giant's Mask! Sorry if that was completely random. That first 5 minutes of this footage was just... I couldn't think of anything to say, so I just got all that off my chest, basically. I was doing so pathetically, too. I don't even know what I was doing, and there are a lot of random cuts, I don't know. But now back to the theory. The Giant's Mask actually has a lot more behind it than just being pretty cool, and, as you'll see, a way of fighting the final boss. Along with building the Tower of Babel, the people... remember, they immortalized the giants versus the goddesses. So when the goddesses put the arrows of light, they flipped it upside down and saw this portal. Now, the people in Icona thought they finally had reached heaven, so they went there, but instead fell into hell, which is where we are right now. And Twinmold is a inhabitant of this hell. And if you'll notice, there are lots of statues around. All of them have the Majora's Mask face on them, implying that Majora's Mask was found here. As well, the whole reason they built made the Giant's Mask, so the legend goes, was so that they could be like the giants, and that's how they would fight the goddesses. Because this happens. And I gotta say, I've always loved this fight. I think it's so interesting how the medium is used, The emphasis, obviously, is put on the fact that you are giant because the enemies are. And if you look, the enemies in, the other temples have all been, they have certain attack patterns, they have certain sweet spots, and all this stuff. If you really look at this fight, the Twinmold duo aren't really attacking, they're just floating about. And just by their sheer size and their presence, that's how they are seen as pretty dangerous, actually. I always thought it was really cool, and if you can't tell by now, the place that you hit them is on their tail or their face. By the way, I'm really glad I was able to at least salvage this part of the audio. The last 3 segments, I couldn't do it without going into extensive, kind of, audio salvaging, which I didn't have time to do, nor really wanted to do. Unfortunately, that's where the coolness of this particular fight that I captured ends. Yeah, I basically fucked up for like a solid 5 minutes, and this fight went from what probably could have been a 2-minute one to a 10-minute fight, so I'm fast-forwarding this and have the cool music, because this is really probably my favorite music in the game, or one of my favorite pieces of the soundtrack. If you can't tell, wearing the Giant's Mask drains your magic. Now, one would wonder if that puts you on a time limit, because there's no foreseeable way to get magic. But if you notice, I've been hovering around these towers that get destroyed, and I've even been destroying a few of them. because they contain magic. And when you're giant, you can't really pick it up. At least I don't think you can. And the only way to destroy it is either you have to swat at it, or Twin Mold has to knock it over. And by having the bunny hood on, I basically was trying to make it so where I could be ready at the drop of a tower. And there are a lot of times where I got messed up during this fight and just couldn't get to a magic bottle, and that's basically what ended up happening. And sometimes it got really hard to see, you know, it's kind of... this whole texture, really. It makes the fight a lot harder to be in a desert area, which is where we are right now, with the sand blowing and everything, and it, you know, it makes the whole scope of the fight, I think, feel much bigger. That's what I always liked about this fight. Again, it's the size. It's by sheer girth, these beings hold such power. Which I always thought was cool. Anyway, so basically, there are a couple ways you can hurt them. Obviously, the one you want to go for the most often, if you can, is the Giant's Mask. But otherwise, there are bows and arrows, which I used to kill the blue guy. Very luckily, that hit. And eventually, I think I get another magic bottle by the red one knocking over a tower. Wish they had specific names, because just referring them to red and blue makes me think of Red versus Blue, which for the longest time I never watched, but recently I've been watching some episodes and I can't get enough of it. Personally. I don't know why it happened, but anyway. So I finally almost got a magic bottle there. So yeah, this is basically the hell where Majora's Mask was, and the people found it, and therefore that's how they started immortalizing, you know, the figure of Majora's Mask around all the places in Termina. And now Twin Mold finally goes down. I like the spastic way in which they die. And they just explode. And then Twin Mold was a zombie. So yeah, now that we are very close to the end of the 3-day cycle, there's basically not much we can do. So I'm going to just show this Giants scene, because I feel like this one has the most, kind of the most importance. Maybe not more so than the last one. If you remember in the last giant scene in Great Bay Temple, it said, "Help our friend." And here they're going to mention friend again. And if you haven't figured it out by now, they're not exactly referring to this last giant. Now when it says call us, that is... it makes sense, now that we've unlocked all 4 of them. And by the way, we don't have to destroy the temples again each 3-day cycle, because we'll have to reset. They're just... we've freed all of them anyway. But the friend that they refer to, and here they're going to say it again, and this is an infamously funny line because it takes so long to get through all this text and you can't speed it up. Forgive your friend. Yeah, I'm gonna spoil it right now. They mean Skull Kid. When they said help our friend, that's who they meant, us helping. And when they say our friend, they also mean forgive him for what he's doing. At least that's what I interpret it to mean. So yeah, in the next segment, we'll be getting a couple things. We'll get the last fairy because, of course, I forgot one in the temple. I only had 14. I know exactly where it is, though. And 6 hours may seem like a short time to do all this, but we're going to get the fairy and get the item, get the heart piece in Icona Castle, and do the 3rd night of the graveyard. It sounds like a lot, but I tested it off-screen, and I actually have a couple hours to spare in doing it, so... thank you guys for putting up with these terrible segments. I hope everybody has a great holiday season. In January, I guess, is when I'll do the next video. We'll be back to normal, so look forward to that. Again, thank you. See you guys later.